Remember, that is what's been happening in Wyoming and in Denver. Those partners and those agencies have been working in tandem to try to get to the bottom of this and to positively identify the remains of Gabby Petito, of which we now know they have done so. But also, you have to remember that this also is happening across the country with the search of her fiance, Brian Laundrie. And so the Laundrie family attorney today is responding in this very, very short statement to our Fox 5's Jody Goldberg, who's been on this story, saying that the family attorney for the Laundries said, "May Gabby rest in peace." Very short, very brief. Remember, they were supposed to have a press conference today in New York. Since that has been canceled, that was canceled last night. And so in the meantime, we're getting more and more tweets from agencies that are responding in Florida, and especially from the Florida governor, who says at the request of the Northport Police, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, law enforcement has been assisting in the search of Brian Laundrie. He says, "I have directed all state agencies under my purview to continue to assist federal and local law enforcement as they continue to search. We need justice for Gabby Petito." And so you can see there, that is the image that has been plastered all over news outlets and online of the person of interest, her fiance, 23-year-old Brian Laundrie. And you can see there that the search effort continues. Not going on any bit longer tonight, though. They're going to be coming back tomorrow at that same area. You can see there the Carlton Nature Preserve. And so they're asking if anyone has any information or tips to call 1-800-CALL-FBI or email tips.fbi.gov. So at the moment, that is where things stand with this. We've been speaking, though, to reporters in the field, not only in Florida, but also in Wyoming, following all the leads in this. We just want to put up again some of this video that we do have of the scene itself today in Florida at this nature preserve. You can see here, I'm going to put that up. And you can get a sense of the, extensive operation that is underway. That's kind of the command center that you're looking at right there. So we just wanted to give you a sense. We've been showing these pictures throughout the day, but you can see there the extent of the operation there in that nature preserve in Florida. And reminder, it's about 25,000 acres, and so they'll be back tomorrow. But we just wanted to show you yet again, this really, I don't think we've showed this to you, but this is from Instagram. This is from Gabby Petito's father, who posted that just minutes after the news came today, saying hashtag Gabby Petito, she touched the world, and an image of her with that mural of angel's wings behind her. And you really cannot imagine what this family has gone through, especially today. You really have to ask yourself, what type of closure this gives the family, knowing for certain that was their daughter who was found on Sunday. And so right now, we do want to just keep with this story in the hopes that there are any more developments. We're going to be at the top of the hour speaking with a retired FBI agent about what FBI agents and law enforcement go through. What do they talk about? What do they hope to glean from any leads or evidence or possible information in such a complex case like this, one that literally spans across the country. And so what I want to do now, though, we have a great interview that you saw live in the 3 o'clock hour, I believe, of my colleague Daytona Everett, speaking with Fox News correspondent Laura Ingle. She was right outside the coroner's office in Wyoming when this news came down. Let's show you that interview right now.
Forensic scientist about this autopsy report. We do want to bring to you the latest from FBI Denver, as they're saying the Teton County Coroner's Office has confirmed that the remains that were found this weekend are in fact Gabby Petito. We want to bring in Fox's Laura Engel into this. She's outside of the Teton County Coroner's Office. Laura, what are you learning from down on the ground there?
Hi there. Well, of course, as we just learned, that this is a 100% confirmation. It is the news that the family feared but knew was possible. And here we have that official word coming from the FBI Denver office in a tweet, as we were told it was going to come. There's been reporters outside of this coroner's office all day long. We were not expecting any kind of a news conference, but that information did come to us from the FBI. I just spoke with the family attorney for the Petito and Schmidt family in New York, and he told me that the family had been informed. They do know that it is Gabby Petito's remains, but they could not really comment much more than that. And right now, the focus is, of course, learning more about the final autopsy results when they will become available. It has been determined to be a homicide, but the manner of death will be important. The time of death, of course, important on this timeline of this crime.
Yeah, Laura, we've been waiting on these results. Did the timing surprise you? This actually came out a lot sooner than we all thought it was going to come out.
Yeah, you know, we've been in contact with the county coroner since we've been here. We were here over the weekend. They were talking with us once there were the remains that were found, but then they kind of shut down. We were told that the autopsy, a normal autopsy, could take anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. But if there was a complicated case, it could take longer. This seems like it could be a complicated case. The area where her remains were found is this beautiful area along a stream outside of a campsite with rocks and trees, and there are now markers from where the investigators had gone and marked with orange spray paint, and there are a lot of marks. So we don't know what that means. We don't know what type of evidence was obtained at the scene, but we know that it appears, at least on first sight, that there was a lot of it. So, you know, we have this initial information, and there's more to come. The stepfather, Jim Schmidt, is still here in Wyoming. He wanted to be here in case he was needed. We did not see him. He was not here to make any type of identification. We don't know exactly how that happened, but now his goal and the goal of the family is what he said, to bring Gabby home.
Yeah, Laura, let's walk everyone through what led us to this point. How did they eventually narrow down to the Grand Teton National Forest to search for Gabby Petito? How'd they get there?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story, and it's one that involves citizen journalists and detectives, really, because once the call went out from the FBI asking for people, if you were in this area, they believed that they were here in this area. We know it was part of their planned journey. This was a dream destination for Gabby Petito. She spoke to her family often about coming to this beautiful part of the country, and we know that they were going from Utah through here and eventually, hopefully, up to Oregon by Halloween was the plan. So that they knew that they were right around here. But it was this YouTube blogger, this travel blogger, who had taken video back on August 27th in that time frame. And when the word came out, go back and look at your videos if you were in this area, she jumped out of bed. She told Fox News this, and she went to her videos and she was editing, and she goes, oh my gosh, there's the white van that we've been being told to be on the lookout for. So she slowed it down, turned that into the FBI, turned it into the family, and that gave the FBI not only a very specific area of the park, and we're talking over 300,000 acres of land here. It gave them a very specific campground to start, like ground zero, and move out from there. And it was not long after that, Sunday afternoon, that we learned that human remains had been found nearby.
It's just amazing to think the role that citizen journalism has played in kind of cracking this case, and no doubt it will moving forward with all these pictures and videos, just out and about evidence that likely will be used in the future. Laura, last question for you. When do we think that final autopsy report will be released?
You know, we were just looking through the FBI statement. There was the tweet and then there was a longer statement. They didn't mention how long that could be. We know that it could take some time. I think that what they wanted to do was get those first two initial pieces of information to the family first and then to the public, that it is 100% Gabby Petito and it was a homicide. Now, for the rest of it, we know that that could take a lot longer. We're just not sure. I asked the family attorney, what is he hearing? He said he just couldn't say, he didn't know. And as soon as we know, of course, we'll bring it to you.
All right, Fox's Laura Engel reporting live for us in Wyoming tonight. Thank you so much for breaking it all down.
All right, and just great reporting there from Fox's Laura Engel in Wyoming with my colleague Daytona Everett just a little bit ago, right when the news broke that the coroner there in Wyoming has positively identified those remains as 22-year-old Gabby Petito. Let's take it, though, to Florida now. We spoke earlier with Fox's Robert Sherman, but also Fox's Charles Watson is there on the ground with the latest update. In this case, as you know, the search for Brian Laundrie is intensifying, and so here is his report from earlier.
The FBI tonight confirming that the remains found on Sunday in Wyoming belonged to 22-year-old Gabby Petito. The coroner ruling Petito's death a homicide, though the exact cause is still undetermined pending full autopsy results. Meanwhile, in a witness statement obtained by Fox News, the 911 caller who reported an argument between Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie last month believed the couple was fighting over a phone. The caller told police Laundrie may have been trying to ditch his fiancée. Officers in Utah responded to that call just weeks before Gabby was reported missing.
There should be some mental health input into what the police are doing when it comes to people as in domestic disputes, not just handcuffing them or letting them go.
Authorities combed through a gator-infested nature preserve in Florida today where Brian Laundrie's parents say he went to hike last week. Investigators looked through the Carlton Reserve over the weekend with no success. The search was paused yesterday as FBI agents raided the Laundrie's home.
It may be that they have to really round this out and make sure that he's not in there. That's not the kind of place where you can live for an extended period of time.
Northport police say the area's terrain is unforgiving with waist-deep water and flooded trails. Search teams are navigating the swampy preserve with canines, drones, and ATVs. The results of the full autopsy could take several weeks. In response to the news, Stephen Bertolino, the Laundrie family attorney, said, "May Gabby rest in peace." In Northport, Florida, Charles Watson, Fox News.
Charles, thanks so much for that update. We just want to put this back up on the screen for you in case you might have missed it. But this is just a heartbreaking Instagram post from Gabby Petito's father, Joseph Petito, saying she touched the world with an image of Gabby, only 22 years old, flanked by these angel wings on this mural there. And that was posted by her father. And it really just breaks your heart, and it makes you think of what the family has gone through over really the past month and a half, and really since June, since they set out on that cross-country road trip with her fiancé, Brian Laundrie. And so in the meantime, we're going to be going just to a quick 2-minute commercial break, though. When we come back, we're in continuing coverage of the Gabby Petito case. I'll be speaking with a former FBI agent on the next steps in this investigation and what law enforcement officials will be looking for as they go forward. We'll be back in a moment. welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. We want to thank you for being with us here on what has been just a very busy Tuesday night. We have still some more stories left to get to, but want to remain on the major story of the day here, and that is the Gabby Petito case. As you know, the FBI field office in Denver, along with the Teton County, Wyoming coroner's office, announced just hours ago that the remains found on Sunday are, in fact, those of 22-year-old Gabby Petito. We're going to be covering this throughout the night here, and to join us right now is retired FBI agent Stacey Aruda. Stacey, so good of you to join us to kind of go into what exactly happens now, because the search there in Florida at that nature preserve for Brian Laundrie has concluded for the night. They'll be back there tomorrow. What do you expect going into tomorrow?
Well, Andrew, they're going to continue to search for Mr. Laundrie in the preserve.
What exactly do you think they would be looking for particularly? Because they were there all day today. We know this is, 25,000 acres of this huge expanse of natural land. Much of it is very marshy and very swampy. We know one of their vehicles was recovered there. And so, as a former agent yourself, we've been showing the pictures of the command center there at the park. What are they looking for? How many people are on the ground? Kind of give us your sense of, if they get a lead, what do they do with it?
So how this works is as the leads are called in, they have agents around the country, depending upon where the lead is at, run that lead down. But for what's going on in Northport, I believe that I read that there was at least 50 law enforcement officers searching the preserve. But they're looking for him. They're looking for evidence that he's been there. And they'll continue to look through the preserve until they've exhausted their resources or they find him, or another lead comes in and they find him someplace else. Because as we know from what has transpired today, it's now a criminal investigation. They verified that the body was that of Gabby, but they also determined the cause of death to be homicide. So it is now a criminal investigation.
Stacey, what do you make of the fact that the FBI is still referring to Brian Laundrie as just a person of interest? Is that protocol or is that strategic? Are they doing that? They don't want to kind of give away their cards right away?
Well, the FBI traditionally is very close-lipped. They neither confirm nor deny an investigation is taking place, but in this situation, with all the press coverage and the fact that we were involved with the police, that it is out in the open that the FBI is involved. But you're going to get just what the FBI wants you to get, off of the Twitter updates. If there is a press conference, you'll get whatever you get, and they probably won't take questions.
Yeah, and of course, speaking of press conferences, we know just late last night that one that was scheduled today by the Laundrie family attorney was canceled. It was supposed to take place in New York, and it was canceled in part because they had talked with the FBI. And so you kind of have to wonder, if the FBI maybe talked them out of it, or if their lawyers talked them out of it. What did you make of that cancellation today?
I can't speak to what the strategy is on this investigation because I'm not involved. But like I said, usually the FBI is extremely close-lipped about what they're doing. There's a strategy behind how they conduct an investigation. Really, that's all I can say on that.
No, I totally understand. Obviously, you're not, intimately involved with the details of this ongoing investigation, but maybe in ones that you have been intimately involved in the past, there's really no timetable, is there? I mean, this could go on for days, weeks, or months until they get that right lead. Isn't that right?
Well, if you wanna rewind back a number of years, look how long the FBI looked for Eric Rudolph in the woods in North Carolina.
And that's right. Can you remind our viewers just who Eric Rudolph was? I mean, that was a very important manhunt.
Eric Rudolph bombed a number of abortion clinics and also was responsible for the Olympic bombing in '96, I believe.
And typically, manhunts, for those of us, who may follow them on, TV or in the movies, they are so precise. And like you mentioned, they are also tight-lipped on the people who are conducting the manhunt because, if you give out information, that could kind of jeopardize the investigation itself, isn't it right? You want to get it when it's right and when it's hot. Absolutely.
And there are a number of people involved. It's more than just the Denver field office of the FBI. It's the Tampa office of the FBI, the Sarasota resident agency, and any other parts of the country where leads have been, disseminated out for them to run them down. So it's a much larger investigation than it appears on TV.
And Stacey, just last question for you, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to you again. From ones that you've covered in the past, does this have any hallmarks? Does anything about this case stand out or make it different to something you might have looked into as we go into these next couple of days?
Well, this case from the very beginning was a little different than, I don't want to call it a regular investigation because every investigation is different, but just the activity that took place in the beginning when Mr. Laundrie returned back home and, had an attorney before anybody even ever talked to him and his parents not talking to anybody. It's just, the whole situation is very strange.
Indeed, it is. Stacey Aruda, thank you for coming on live now from Fox to offer some insight into how these investigations operate and are conducted. We'll speak to you again.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, and we do want to stay in Florida. I want to just replay for our viewers in case they might have missed it as it happened live. I spoke with Fox's Robert Sherman. He's down on the ground. He was down on the ground, rather, in front of that nature preserve with some really great details and reporting. As you know, since we spoke with Robert, they have concluded their search for the night. They will be back there tomorrow, but here was my conversation with Robert from earlier.
Carlton Reserve, which is about 5 or 10 minutes away from the Laundrie household. This was the large space where we saw that Brian Laundrie allegedly left his car behind. His family told us that he had gone out hiking. This area was searched 2 days ago, but it was a different portion of this park. Now we see investigators are back here today. And with this news that is broken today, Andrew, with the announcement coming from the Denver field office of the FBI, confirming Gabby Petito's remains, the identity, and then also saying that the initial ruling in terms of cause of death is homicide. Again, we're still waiting for the final autopsy. But with those announcements coming out today, it pretty much, if there were if there wasn't already enough pressure for the law enforcement officials here to find Brian Laundrie with all possible haste, there's even more now. You see the law enforcement officials are out here today. Inside, it's completely different. We've seen the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We've seen the Northport Police Department, a half dozen other local and state agencies that have been combing this area. And this is a huge plot of land, Andrew. This is about 25,000 square acres, which is why officials have pulled out all the stops. We've seen ATVs put in the field. We've seen drones. We've seen canine units. All of those have been utilized to try and comb through as much of this land as possible. But, keep in mind of the landscape that we're dealing with here, Andrew. You all are out in Arizona right now. Natural reserves and natural landscapes look different out there than they do here. Here, it's a lot of swampland. That means you have a lot of standing water. You have alligators. You have snakes and all of the kind. Law enforcement told us today pretty candidly that the task that lies before them is a pretty tall one. Take a listen to this.
Robert, we don't have that sound. We apologize there. We're just going to keep talking here because I want to...
That's fine.
I want to just really hone in on this one particular fact. Just give us a sense, clear as day, what brought investigators to this natural preserve. Was it only that car was found there? Did they have any other leads to suggest that, they might have any evidence of Brian Laundrie's whereabouts?
That's our understanding, is that this is the natural reserve where the car was parked. We also heard from the family that this is an area that he liked to hike, that this is where he set off for, and then he never came back. So that's why this area is being combed. But with this being such a massive plot of land, you can understand why they started that search 2 days ago over in east of here, several miles east of here, and they said that they felt as though that they had exhausted the search effort, but now they've resumed it over here west, a bit more towards another town in this area called Venice. There is just so much land here and so much reserve that you can understand why all of these resources have to be put in the field, why it takes such a concerted effort to do this. So that's why they're out here putting on the full court press.
And Robert, we just read for our viewers as well, just while we have you, that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis just tweeted that he is putting the full force of state agencies behind this effort as well. Do you have any more information on that? I believe this is really the first time we've heard from the Florida governor.
Yeah, and the Florida governor, in that tweet that he mentioned out, he said that he mentioned that it's how important it is to bring justice to this case and get Gabby Petito justice. We saw the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission out here. That's a state agency. They're going to patrol a lot of Florida's waterways and a lot of their natural lands and a lot of their natural reserves. So it's understandable why they've been out here today. You have one thing to keep in mind here, Andrew. We talk about Northport, Florida, and the Northport Police Department. They emphasize today that this is the FBI show, that this is an FBI investigation. They and all these local and state agencies are assisting the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Those are the folks who are quarterbacking this whole situation. They're the ones who are calling the shots right now. So that's why you've seen such an emphasis placed out west in Wyoming, and then you see it come back here as well, navigating across state lines. That's why the FBI is really taking the lead on this.
And Robert, it's almost 7 p.m. where you are. Are they going to be, doing this throughout the night? Have they kind of wrapped up for the day? What's that timetable look like? Do you have any information on that?
It's been a slow but steady wind down, Andrew, over the last couple of hours. I mean, this area has been cordoned off throughout the entirety of the day. We have seen a few different, whether it's sheriff's cruisers or some of those state vehicles from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission that were starting to come through here, and they left this area. So we have seen some of those cars start to file out. There is still a presence here, but it's very apparent that slowly but surely it's starting to wind down, because with this being a natural reserve, there isn't a single light out here that you can see anywhere, not even a single street light on either one of these roads. We're right at an intersection right now. That's going to cause problems in about an hour and a half, which, you understand why things start to wind down at this hour.
Yeah, and Robert, just lastly, and we thank you for your time and your reporting, but give us a sense, how far is that from the home in Northport, would you say?
Not too far at all, just a couple of minutes away. And everything has been pretty closely situated. So you have the home in Northport, which is actually less than a mile away from the police station. Both of those two properties were less than 10 minutes away from the first area of this natural reserve that they were searching. And now, once again, you're about 10 minutes away or so from the home, from the police station. This whole investigation, it's really taking place in a pretty tight little bubble geographically.
All right, Fox's Robert Sherman there live for us in Florida. As he follows this case, we're following it alongside you. As the question is still very, very hot on so many people's minds, where is Brian Laundrie? We'll be speaking to you a little bit later. Thanks so much, Robert.
You got it.
All right, we thank Robert Sherman for that reporting from earlier. We're going to take just a quick 2-minute commercial break with more news where that came from in just a moment. Welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. We do want to get to some of these other top headlines on this very busy Tuesday. I want to thank you for being with us. We do have some very, very sad news to report out of the world of Hollywood and entertainment at the moment. You may remember the actor Willie Garson. He has passed away. He starred most notably in Sex and the City as Stanford Blatch. If you're a familiar face to that show, he was Carrie Bradshaw's gay best friend throughout all of it. He appeared in so many of the season's 27 episodes. But there, one of his friends, Rob Morrow, tweeting, "Our sweet pal, Willie Garson, has passed on. Dear soul, rest easy." He apparently was battling cancer, and he died just today. And so we wanted to bring that to you. We're going to be getting any more reaction from his co-stars on the hit HBO series Sex and the City. Quite groundbreaking at the time, a prominent gay character on television on HBO. And so he portrayed Stanford Blatch on Sex and the City for so many seasons. But Willie Garson has passed on, according to his friend there, Rob Morrow, TMZ, first reporting that news. Anyway, we do want to move on to some of these other stories. We've been following all the latest out of New York at the UN General Assembly. President Biden spoke there earlier this morning. He made his way back to Washington, and he did hold a meeting in the Oval Office with the UK Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson in the U.S. for the UN General Assembly, making his way via the Acela Corridor. He rode the Amtrak today, obviously a favorite of President Biden's, from New York to D.C. Let's listen into what they had to say. This is very, very brief today in the Oval.
Minister. Good. And we're promoting our democratic. Yeah. We're going to be there. Fantastic. The bell's on. Can continue our cooperation in Afghanistan and the Indo-Pacific and around the world. And I want to thank you again, Boris, for
this is the good stuff. I used to pay $163 every month for car insurance. Now, check out how much I'm paying. $24. Most insurance companies are ripping us all off.
Here, I'll get a book too. Here, watch this. Let's grab a book in 3D.
And we've seen some great progress just in the last period, and it's great that the ban has been lifted on
for the Petito and Schmidt families here. And you can see here that we are live from Eagle 8 HD, moments away from arriving officially here at Carlton Reserve, where the search for Brian Laundrie here has resumed and is now being led by the FBI. We have a live stream coming your way here. We're currently live in several different places, but we are going to be live in all of our destinations here for all of our audiences watching online here momentarily. Again, that's coming up here. In the meantime, we'll show you the journey and across this vast search area of rural Sarasota County, Florida, here live from Eagle 8 HD.
The Sleep Number 360 Smart Bed is on sale now. It helps keep you effortlessly comfortable by sensing your...
Welcome to Banfield. The search for Gabby Petito tragically appears to be over, while the hunt for her fiancé has only intensified. Today, Brian Laundrie's parents were led out of that home, their home, which has now been roped off officially as a crime scene. Officers were armed with a search warrant, and in it turns out they've confiscated a hard drive believed to be connected to Gabby's disappearance and now possible murder. On September 1st, Laundrie returned home after a long cross-country road trip. He was driving Gabby's now infamous white van, but Gabby wasn't with him. He lawyered up almost immediately, refusing to answer questions about her whereabouts, frustrating Gabby's family and the police. Sadly, yesterday it appears those questions were answered when human remains were found in Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, which the FBI said were consistent with Petito. It is the same place where Gabby FaceTimed with her family for the final time. No cause of death has been reported yet. Authorities say a full forensic identification is being conducted. Weeks ago, after Brian returned to Florida, his parents wouldn't make him available to the police for questioning. But then on Friday of last week, they claimed he went hiking. Tuesday, 4 days prior, at a place called Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park in Northport, Florida. The park is an alligator-infested 160-acre, heavily wooded area that's known for its trails and its gators. Police say the 50-man search involved drones and bloodhounds and canines and four-wheelers, but it yielded no results. And police now say they are done there. Can't find him there. So the big question remains tonight, where do you look next? Where is Brian Laundrie? I'm joined now by News Nation's Brian Enton, who is outside the family house in Northport, Florida, right in front of that curious camper van that the FBI agents combed through today. So, Brian, take me through the day at that property.
Yeah, this was wild, Ashley. You know, we had a feeling late last night that this was going to happen because suddenly police came in, shut down the roads, put police tape around everything, and we knew something was about to happen. We thought it might happen overnight. It didn't happen. It happened after 9 o'clock this morning. Suddenly, a van and FBI cars roll up. 24 FBI agents get out of the van and the cars. They went into the house. They were allowed in. The parents opened the door and let them in, and they took out a lot of stuff. We don't know what it was, but there was a lot of it. Boxes and boxes and boxes of evidence. It was pouring rain as all of this went on. We were right in position right here. Let me show you. We had this view. They basically backed the van right up here to the garage so that all the stuff wouldn't get wet, and then they unloaded all of these boxes of evidence. 5 or 6 hours after they got here, they were gone.
So, Brian, just we missed a bit of what you were showing to us, but I can see that perhaps it was the garage door that was open and they were bringing those boxes out through the garage door. That's why there was that little piece of video that we could see boxes going back between. But the camper van, did they bring anything out of the camper van?
They didn't bring anything out of the camper van, but they finally searched the camper van. A lot of people have been focused on this camper, wondering, could he be inside? We never saw anyone search it until today. The FBI went inside the camper. And right next to the camper where you see that truck, there was also a silver Mustang. A lot of attention on the Mustang because it's believed that Brian may have driven that Mustang to the reserve when he allegedly went hiking. They towed that Mustang away, the FBI. That is now also part of the evidence.
So curious, if he drove that silver Mustang to the nature reserve and then his parents say he never came back, how did the silver Mustang get back to that property to be towed away by the FBI today?
Okay, this is strange, and let me break it down for you. According to the police, the Laundries, the parents who, by the way, happen to still be inside this house behind me, say that Brian Laundrie left in the silver Mustang on Tuesday and drove to the reserve to go hiking. They claim that on Wednesday or Thursday, they realized that he hadn't come back and that they went to go pick up the Mustang and they drove it back here to the house. We noticed when the Mustang reappeared here at the house, but what's so strange is if their son was missing in the wildlife reserve where he went hiking, why would they then go get the Mustang, bring it back to the house, still not tell police until Friday, and then they call police on Friday and say, our son is missing?
And we are all supposed to believe them when they point us in the direction of the Myakkahatchee Creek Park and then spend all of this time and money searching for Brian in an alligator-infested place that's dangerous for searchers. We're supposed to believe those people?
Listen, I mean, we asked police that very question. We asked them at a news conference, are the parents possibly leading you in the wrong direction? And they said, we are working to corroborate their story. They did not say we believe the parents or we know for sure that Brian was hiking in this reserve. They said they were working to corroborate the story. And then next thing we know, they searched 2 days, a 24,000 acre preserve, by the way, search a very small area for 2 days and then say, we're done here.
Okay, so, I mean, my spidey senses are saying obstruction of justice here. If they have sent the police off on a wild goose chase to a dangerous place with all of these agents and all of the assets that they brought in there. Just quickly, you just mentioned that those parents are back in that crime scene. That whole house is roped off behind you. I can see the yellow tape, but they were allowed to go back in.
Yeah, let me kind of walk you around real quick, Ashley. So you've got the house here, the garage where they took the evidence out. You see the yellow tape. We're on a neighbor's private property, so we're allowed to be here. But they've literally got this entire house surrounded by crime scene tape, and they are now sleeping in the house in the middle of the crime scene tape. We were very interested to see what was going to happen with them today. When they got pulled into that black van, we thought, perhaps they're going to be taken away. They were only in the black van for a very short time, and then the agents took them back into the house where they are tonight.
So just a quick little sit out in the black van while the agents did something they didn't want the parents to see, clearly. So one quick question for you, and I've asked you this a few times, but it takes on a whole new light today. And that is that you were there, Brian, on Tuesday of last week, right through Friday, doing effectively surveillance, in which you said it didn't even appear anyone was in that house, let alone Brian, Laundrie being spirited out or the Mustang coming back, etc. But at any point, did you see those parents come out and do anything about that Mustang? Or did you see them come out and drive off? I'm just wondering, possibly out of the garage, maybe with a Brian Laundrie in their trunk.
We did not. The interesting thing is when we got here on Tuesday, and remember, Tuesday, this wasn't the story that it is now. So we rolled up on Tuesday and decided we're going to sit on this house. Tuesday, there was no Mustang here. We didn't know anything about the Mustang. We stayed here for most of the day and night, left for a short time, came back Wednesday. That's when the Mustang appeared. So that's what we know about the Mustang.
Can you show me?
We have never set our eyes on Brian Laundrie.
Just point out behind that camper and give me a rough idea of where that Mustang was parked, and if it would have been easy to sort of get a person into the trunk or what. Like where in relation to that camper was it?
Yeah, the Mustang was right on the other side of the camper here. It was parked right on the other side. You see the garage here, which was interesting. The garage door had never opened since we've been here for a week. It opened today when they brought the evidence out. But the Mustang was on the other side. Then we wondered, we know this is the dad's sort of cranberry red truck, pickup truck. We've seen the dad come and go in that. They had two tow trucks here. They first towed the Mustang. I said to my photographer, Luis, I said, I bet they're going to tow this pickup truck next, but they didn't. The pickup truck remains here tonight.
I just can't understand. If you were doing all the surveillance, where were the police to keep an eye on the front, back, and every window? Brian Enton, excellent work out there. Thank you, all of that. I'm going to turn from Brian Enton right now, and I'm going to talk to somebody who knows all about finding people who don't want to be found. He's basically made his life's passion and work on that. He's the host of Investigation Discovery's In Pursuit with John Walsh. In just 3 seasons, John has helped capture 26 fugitives and find 8 missing children and about 1,400 throughout his career. The question, listen, he's not officially a fugitive. He's not officially charged, but John Walsh, do you think you might be able to help catch number 27, Brian Laundrie?
Well, that's the reason I'm talking to you, Ashley, and it's a pleasure to talk to you. You used to work for me, one of the best reporters I ever had, and wish you well on your new gig. But I've always said, and I've been saying it for days, this is a homicide. This dirtbag is out there. I don't know how he got out of the house with the FBI and local cops watching him day and night. And, you know, this semantic BS about person of interest. In the old days, we used to call it the suspect. Now, there's only one suspect. There were no other persons of interest, no other suspects. How did he get out? How did the FBI and the local cops let the main suspect get away? All I had to do is put a deputy sheriff in the front street, a deputy sheriff in the back street. They wouldn't have had to search a swamp. And what the family is doing to Gabby's family, what Brian's family, the dirty Laundries, and believe me, they are dirty, when they haven't cooperated. This girl used to live in their house. She was engaged to their son. Their son meandered back from a 4-month trip and parked a Winnebago, her Winnebago, not his, her van, not Winnebago, her van in the driveway for 10 days. So he had 10 days to scrub that. I don't know what the hell the FBI waited so long to get in there, but he had 10 days to clean the house out. He had 10 days to scrub the van. And then finally, the parents went, how could Brian not tell us that he didn't bring her home? How did his parents, how did the dirty Laundries not have the guts to tell us? So they filed a missing persons report, and then they clam up. He lawyers up, they clam up. And think of the gall of this. Last Friday, their famous Johnny Cochran-style lawyer, Bertolino, calls the police and says, oh, the Laundries want to help you out now. On Tuesday, Brian went to a swamp that was nearby, and we were so worried about him that we went and found the car and put a note in it and said, dear Brian, don't hurt yourself. And then we brought the car back ourselves on Thursday, and then we called you on Friday. We didn't help you at all in the beginning, but now Brian's gone. Well, you know what they did? They bought their son 4 extra days. They bought him 4 days to get a head start. So this Wednesday night, I'm going to focus in on Brian. He's going to be the top of the show on In Pursuit. And as you said, Ashley, I know one thing all these years. Lots of people don't want to call the cops. They don't want to call the FBI. They don't want to get dragged into a trial. They don't want an FBI agent knocking on their front door or a U.S. attorney saying, we need you to help us convict this guy. Everybody in America knows one thing. Call me or text me. I don't trace or tap phones. I don't care who you are, whether you're legal or illegal, you're a gangbanger, whatever. There'll be no revenge, no retribution. Nobody know you called. So call me. I'm saddling up to catch this dirtbag.
Okay, over the break, I want you to dig up the phone number, and we'll get that out there to our viewers, John, so that if anyone out there is watching, they will call you, and hopefully we can, get another caller under your belt there. After the break, John, I also want to ask you, and I kind of know the answer, but it's the trust factor. Why would anyone have trusted what these parents said after they gave him what we think might have been a 4-day lead time escape, if that's what's happened, and maybe longer, because who knows if Brian Laundrie was even in that house on Tuesday, packing a camping backpack to go to that park. So when we come back, I'm going to go through all of that and a couple of other questions. Right back after the break with the inimitable John Walsh. With Brian Laundrie on the run, the best person to talk to is the man who has spent his almost entire career finding people on the run, and that's John Walsh, the host of In Pursuit, which airs on Investigation Discovery and Discovery Streaming. John, I am so glad to talk to you at this particular time because it seems the whole country is just absolutely wrapped in this particular case. Why do you think the police believed the Laundrie parents when they said 4 days ago he went on a hike, but a day after that, they went and got his car, never said a word to them, possibly giving Brian 4 days lead time to make a run for it, or possibly giving him a full week if he was never in that house to begin with. If on September 11th, when she was reported missing, he took off. Why would the police believe these parents?
It's beyond me because the number one thing police do is they're suspicious of what people tell them. So I can't figure that out. But I've got to say one thing. This is a whole trilogy of sad things that shouldn't have happened. Number one, that 911 call that we heard yesterday, had that 911 caller that took the call, that wonderful tourist was going through that town and saw Gabby and Brian, and he felt bad enough to pull over and call the 911 operator and say to him, I just saw a guy beating a girl on the street. I pulled up behind him and pulled next to him, and I saw this same guy beating her on the front seat of the car. That was never translated to the two deputies that pulled him over. He had total control of her, classic domestic abuser, and she was scared to death and crying. This girl weighs 100 pounds. She was terrified. And these two poor cops didn't get the intel from the 911 operator that he was the aggressor. He told them a bullshit story that her phone, she dinged him on the face because you could see him. He was controlling the whole thing. And I watched that 911 call today and that interview, the cop cam interview, and I went, she's terrified. Can't they tell? She's crying, she's shaking. He's right there. He's the bad guy. And in their report, they wrote that he was the victim and let them go. I can only imagine she might be alive. She might have been alive. It's just so sad. It's so sad. And then the cops fall for this Bertolino lawyer. They fall for this lawyer who's BSing them the whole time. Oh, Brian's in here. Brian's here. The parents don't need to cooperate because it's Fifth Amendment. I get all that. But he's not just a person of interest. From day one, everyone in this country felt the same way I did a week ago or 5 days ago, that he was the perpetrator and she's probably dead in the desert. That's what the odds are. And that's exactly what happened. And they buy this ruse that Tuesday he went to the swamp. It gave him 4 more days to get ahead. And I'll tell you what, at some point, these parents are going to have to pay. They're going to have to pay for being an accessory for putting him on the run. And they better not help him because, now these days...
Yeah, I think it's obstruction of justice if this turns out to be a big ruse. But then again, I'm still shocked that they didn't have probable cause to just go into that house last week. The man was driving a missing woman's van. To me, that's probable cause. Get a warrant, go in, don't knock, just go in. There's a woman missing and there's exigent circumstances. I want to play that 911 call, John, that you just talked about, because I think it is extremely telling. I had to rewind it, listen to it again, thinking I misheard it, because the police report said she was slapping him. She was hitting him. But now we can hear from the witness who called 911. And this is how the witness described it to the 911 operator. Have a listen.
We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl. He was slapping her? Yes. And then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off.
Okay, you said it's a white van?
White van. I give you the license plate if you give me 1 sec.
So that was a complete boondoggle, because clearly he was a dangerous person. And by the way, John, did you hear also that in that material that came from the hard drive, it was determined that the messaging and phone calls between Gabby and her mom, they were growing increasingly panic-stricken, meaning that Gabby was becoming more stressed about her relationship with each and every communication with her mother. That is just so distressing.
Well, I'll tell you, it's sad. When you, now, I don't want to knock 911 operators. They're always busy. They're dealing with life and death every day. But how didn't that be related to those two deputy sheriffs that pulled him over? He created the whole scenario that he was the victim. And there she's shaking and crying and scared to death, etc. Like every abuser of women in this country does. They terrify them and the women don't leave and they wind up dead. Well, that's exactly what happened to Gabby. The real sad thing is that they didn't relay that information, that he was the guy slapping her, that he punched her when she got in the car. She was the one in danger. And I'll tell you what, there's been so many red herrings by this guy. You know, texting on her phone that they can't get any service in Yosemite. That's the first tip that it's a red herring, that she's not with the guy. And then he started sending texts, I need to talk to Grandpa, a name that he never used before. He didn't know the nickname of her grandfather. So right away, but I'll say this, Ashley, I don't think there's a judge in this country, if I went to him and said, here's a guy that's been holed up in his house without his fiance after a 4-month trip for 10 days. He never let her parents that she didn't know that she didn't come back with them. The parents had to file a missing persons report. They lawyer her up and lie to the cops repeatedly. But I would have gone to a judge and say, Judge, this guy's not just a person of interest. He's the main suspect. Something bad happened to this girl. We need to get in the house now, not today. Not a week later, a week ago, when they get in there, because he had a chance to scrub that van. He's no dummy. He looks like a real dumb redneck, but he's no dummy. He scrubbed that van and he cleaned that house out. So they didn't get much today. And I don't know why they didn't go to a judge, because I don't think there's a judge that would have turned him down. I think a judge went, you know what, search the van and get in that house. So
yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put up that.
The whole thing's been a nightmare.
Just a calamity. But we're going to go to break. But I do want to say, put up on the screen, if you will, the message. I'm going to ask the control room just before we go to break. It was the message that the parents got on August 27th, saying, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." And when you see that, Stan is her grandfather, and her mother says she never would have called her grandfather by his name, Stan. So she believes that was a lie. I don't know if we have that message that her parents marked in the. It came out in the affidavit today that message, that text just was not something that her parents believed for a minute was hers, August 27th. So it gives us a bit of a time frame. John, we're going to work on that little piece of digital information that is getting stuck in our gremlins. But in the meantime, after the break, I want to ask you about a huge development today. And that was one of our correspondents out at the Grand Teton Park entrance saw the coroner van come back and spend the whole day back at the scene where they had already recovered the remains. I'm going to ask you what your thoughts are about that, what it might mean for the investigation, what it might mean for the condition of Gabby's body, which of course, that matters for a trial. We'll be back right after this with John Walsh. Welcome back to Banfield. Joining me is John Walsh, the host of In Pursuit with John Walsh. It airs on Investigation Discovery on Wednesdays. It also streams on Discovery Live, and it's a great show. You do great work, John Walsh. I have always said that about you. We've got so many bad guys off the street because of your commitment to justice. So in this case, do you have any thoughts on the reporting that came from Marcos Ortiz, who works with us? He's out at the Grand Teton entrance to the park area, the campground area where Gabby's remains presumably were recovered. That coroner came back today and spent the day there. What does that tell you about this scene?
Well, it tells you two things. As you mentioned, they took her body away. So they got the pathologist on the plane today, the forensic pathologist, and they're going to do that autopsy during the night tonight, probably, and most of tomorrow. But he went back to the scene because they overlook all kinds of things. I remember, I think you worked with me during the days of Chandra Levy, where that crime scene was invaded by reporters so much that they missed 3 of her ribs. Her ribs were in the park. So, you know, they're going to go back and really cover that. They might find something in the dirt, in the sand. They might find a piece of something that he used. If he used a weapon, they need to cover that thoroughly. It's still an active crime scene. And of course, the sad thing is she's been out there and exposed, and probably animals have been after her. I'm hoping that there's enough of her left that they can get a good read on how he killed her. That would be very, very important. But you know, they're going to work it hard.
Story was in August of 2001. I remember that well. It was right before 9/11 that Gary Condit was under the microscope. Good memory, John. So, and I will say that a photographer was in that area, saw grizzly prints, saw evidence of grizzly. So there is a potential that that is a very compromised body or scene. I just want to ask you to look at this picture with me, John. Gabby's dad posted on social media a picture of Gabby with the image behind her of the angel wings. And it was just, you know, it was such a heartfelt image that he posted, knowing what he knows now. I wanted to ask you, as someone who has been through this, who has had a missing child, who has had the worst news with your son, Adam, what would you say to Gabby's parents tonight?
Several things. And as you mentioned, they have joined this horrible club that my wife and I belong to, the parents of murdered children. But I look at it as Adam, this beautiful 6-year-old boy, as my angel. He's my motivation. We wanted to make sure Adam didn't die in vain. And now Gabby is his angel, his whole family's angel. And she was a beautiful girl, and she was killed by a horrible coward. But I would say to this, the whole country is praying for you. The whole country is in anguish for you. And the best way, I say, for parents of murdered children to deal with things is first get justice. There's no such thing as closure. He'll always have a big chunk out of his heart. That whole family will. There's no closure. It's justice. They need justice. Remember all the good things about Gabby. Remember all the wonderful. Don't celebrate or think about. Don't celebrate. Don't dwell on the one day, horrible day in your life and her life. Think about what joy she brought to you as a family. And I'm going to do the best I can, and lots of other Americans, to make sure you get justice for Gabby.
John, let's put up your number so that if anyone's watching right now, they can call your number as well. It's right there, 1-833-378-7783. As John said, the callers can remain anonymous. I'm going to repeat it, 1-833-378-7783. John, you do the Lord's work. Thank you, sir, for being on tonight. And I hope we can talk again and certainly continue to cover this case together. Thank you, John Walsh.
Thanks for having me. And let's pray I catch that, or somebody catches that guy. Go to my website, call my hotline. Ashley, you worked for me for years and did great, great work. We need to catch this guy before he kills somebody else.
Well, he certainly would be desperate if he's on the run right now. I'm going to remind everybody, John, your show In Pursuit with John Walsh airs Wednesdays on Investigation Discovery, also streams on Discovery Plus. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn gears now to that other big story, the Murdaugh saga. It reads like a John Grisham novel with murders and a hired hitman. And now, yeah, I do have something new. A newly uncovered arson connected to this man. There is a low country lawyer who's connected to it all. If Alex Murdaugh allegedly siphoned the millions from his law firm that we also heard about and his clients, well, how on earth did he pull it off? Because judges have to sign off on that. Our next
Students with ADHD save 10 hours studying with this Chrome extension.
But no, by all means, go ahead.
Now to the latest on the search for Gabby Petito's fiance, Brian Laundrie. Police in Florida continue to scour an alligator-infested reserve where they believe he may be, but hundreds of miles away. TMZ obtained a photo from somebody who thinks that they actually spotted Laundrie on their trail camera. Let's get right over to Marina Morocco for the very latest development. Marina.
Yeah, Angie, there have been a lot of web sleuths in this entire case, potentially even leading to the remains of Gabby Petito. But investigators continuing their search tonight for Brian Laundrie inside a 25,000-acre reserve near the couple's home in Northport, Florida. He's wanted for questioning in Gabby Petito's disappearance. He has not been seen since September 14th. Now, the reserve, it's got hiking trails, biking trails, campsites. There's also thick foliage that covers a lot of it, making that search a challenge. Laundrie's family says he told them he was headed there for a hike, left home with a backpack. And TMZ has since obtained this photo from a man who says a person that fits Laundrie's description was seen on their trail camera early Monday morning. This is in Baker, Florida. That photo shows a person with a backpack trekking through the woods. Keep in mind that Baker, Florida is about 500 miles away from Northport, where he was last seen. However, people quick to point out the similarities between the backpack in the surveillance photo and a picture of Brian's backpack that was found on social media. The man who has a photo alerted the authorities in the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, confirming that they are actively looking into that footage. Meantime, a coroner in Wyoming expected to release a preliminary result on the autopsy for the body to be believed of Gabby Petito. Those remains were found Sunday at a campground near Grand Teton National Park. And Angie, again, there was video from other hikers who were out there who had seen that van. They gave it to the FBI, and it was then that agents searched that same site where that video was taken.
And the family's website, the Facebook page, I believe it's called Find Gabby Petito, they're doing a great job of updating people of the type of footage that they're getting in, just so people don't keep sending the same type,
tips
that were
clog
taken in the same
lines.
place, yeah, and clogging up the tip line. So, Marina, thank you for the latest update.
The search for answers in the Gabby Petito case continues today at the family home of Brian Laundrie.
Yeah, right now law enforcement is still active in their neighborhood, and that's where 8 on your side's Christine McClarty has been staked out all day. She joins us now live from Northport at this Laundrie residence with more on the story. Hi, Christine.
Hey guys, the Laundrie home is still actively being investigated by Northport police. You can see the home just here behind me. It looks like what it might be an FBI car, an unmarked car, and police right now chatting in front of the home in the Laundries as the search for their son continues in the woods just about 10 minutes away.
I come down this way all the time because of to back up the light, so I come down through here.
Gary Coble lives a few streets over, but travels this one often. The street Brian Laundrie's parents live on, and where he was last seen a week ago, leaving the house to go hiking. Since then, he's been missing, and remains of who is believed to be his fiancée, Gabby Petito, found in the woods of Wyoming.
It's pretty sad. Pretty sad.
Today, there's not a lot of action at the Laundrie house. A major juxtaposition from this scene Monday when 15 FBI agents and Northport police swarmed the house with crime scene tape and suitcases of equipment, executing a court-authorized search warrant. Monday, a tow truck at the home took the Ford Mustang belonging to Brian Laundrie. That's the same car found at the Carlton Reserve last week, later driven home by family. Now that car is being held at the Northport police station. Coble says having national news in his backyard has his family worried.
Got my daughters up in Indiana, and my sister-in-law is in New York, and they both called and wanted to know what was going on.
Another neighbor, Terry Kiss, agrees.
My dad in New Jersey and my aunt in California and stuff like that. They're like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? I was like, yes, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Just sitting in the house, minding my own business.
If Brian Laundrie is watching, your neighbors have this message for you.
Absolutely, he should turn himself in.
Turn yourself in. They're hunting. They'll find you.
Now, police are still here as the investigation continues. We did speak with neighbors who say living on this street this week has been an absolute nightmare. More details on that coming up live at 6:30. Josh, back to you.
Yeah, I was out there yesterday for the majority of the day, and neighbors were not pleased that so much media was out there. You know, yesterday, the field office from the FBI in Tampa says that they've pretty much wrapped up the investigation and the search of that home. So anything else happening with the home today that you noticed?
Not as much today. Honestly, it's just being monitored. As I said earlier, we have some police and FBI going up and down the block and monitoring the area, but that's the latest as of now.
All right. Christine McClarty live for us out in Northport tonight. Thanks so much.
Peace out, leaving home just to change my phone plan. Hello, switching from my sofa. Goodbye, everything you can. Hello, Google Fi, phone plan that can.
Gabby Petito lived her life on social media, and her disappearance inspired a wave of social media sleuths determined to help find her. And in this case, it seems to have worked. Fox 13's Jennifer Holton shows us how this case turned the social media world into an army of digital detectives.
If you've heard about the Gabby Petito case, you've probably heard about this picture that she posted on Instagram on August 25th.
They scroll through her social media accounts.
Here's a more zoomed in version.
Analyzing photos in Google Maps. An army of digital detectives on the case of Gabby Petito, whose story has captivated the internet.
I personally have tried to really focus on sharing facts and sharing things that were being talked about without coming up with crazy theories.
Former homicide detective Ted Williams says the sheer dedication by the online community in Petito's case is uncanny. And with a case that spans multiple states, it's a boost for law enforcement.
It may be that one nugget that law enforcement really needs. But it's like a needle in the haystack when you have that many people.
Here it is on the left.
On Sunday, it was this travel blogger who helped identify the location of Gabby's van. They captured it with their GoPro camera as they traveled through Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming.
That was essential in pinpointing an area where, unfortunately, we believe that Gabby's body has been found.
For years, America has been engrossed with true crime stories, even romanticizing them.
It is something instinctive in us that want to solve crimes, and specifically a crime of this nature.
We are going to be going to the Grand Tetons to see if there's anything that we can do to help in the search of Gabby Petito.
People go missing all of the time, Williams says. But what's made this case different is that Gabby gave us almost daily insight into her life.
On a daily basis, she's putting out something about where she is, how she's enjoying the trip, et cetera, et cetera.
Us being able to see so much of her life led a lot of people online to be so invested in it because we could analyze a lot more.
And when those posts stopped, that's when the work of the digital detectives began. In Tampa, Jennifer Holton, Fox 13 News.
Well, social media has played a role in tracking investigations for years, but it's not always beneficial. You may remember back in 2013, after the Boston bombing, several people were falsely identified as the suspects.
Laundrie for a second. The search for him is intensifying. He was named a person of interest in her disappearance last week. And right now, several law enforcement agencies are searching for him in the Carlton Reserve. Fox 13's Kimberly Kuzan joins us there live tonight. Hi there, Kim. First of all, we know that Gabby's death has ruled to be a homicide. That's a significant development because it confirms what many had suspected, but we did not know for sure. Do we know if Brian is now considered to be a suspect then in this case?
Well, Mark, publicly, investigators are still calling Brian Laundrie a person of interest. But this begins as the search here at the Carlton Reserve intensifies. And the reserve is 25,000 acres of trees, trails, snakes, alligators, and who else knows what.
Just like a ride I like to do to get away from it.
Those coming to the Carlton Reserve's Venice entrance found it shut down and filled with investigators searching for 23-year-old Brian Laundrie.
To see this and to see what happened is horrifying in our own little community.
The reserve contains 25,000 acres. Laundrie would need to rely on survival skills to stay in the hot, muggy, and swampy terrain.
I ride my bike out there quite often, and you just sink in. It's not worth it. There's so much water. Like normally when you go out there in the wintertime when it's dry, you see all kinds of alligators. There's so much water you don't even see the alligators. I wouldn't want to be out there.
Northport Police Department provided this video of the terrain inside the reserve and the obstacles investigators are facing as they search for Brian Laundrie.
Basically take this wood field. You're going to see the trail once you get there.
High-altitude drones that can zoom in, along with swamp buggies that can get into marshy areas, are being put to work as investigators work against conditions they call unforgiving.
We're expecting to get wet by the end of the day and check the entire area for Brian Laundrie.
So where is Brian Laundrie? That's the question that remains, and that's what investigators are working to answer. Now, I can tell you earlier today, Governor Ron DeSantis allocated even more people to this search effort. He allocated the FWC and funds to come out here and help at the search site here at the Carlton Reserve. Now, we did see them out here, but the search continues to intensify as everyone tries to lay eyes on Brian Laundrie and find his location. Mark, back to you.
Yeah, so many questions that potentially he could help answer. Kim, thanks.
So again, that was our very own Regina Gonzalez talking to a forensic scientist about this autopsy report. We do want to bring to you, though, the latest from FBI Denver, as they're saying the Teton County Coroner's Office has confirmed that the remains that were found this weekend are, in fact, Gabby Petito. We want to bring in Fox's Laura Engel into this. She's outside of the Teton County Coroner's Office. Laura, what are you learning from down on the ground there?
Hi there. Well, of course, as we just learned, that this is a 100% confirmation. It is the news that the family feared but knew was possible. And here we have that official word coming from the FBI Denver office in a tweet, as we were told it was going to come. There's been reporters outside of this coroner's office all day long. We were not expecting any kind of a news conference, but that information did come to us from the FBI. I just spoke with the family attorney for the Petito and Schmidt family in New York, and he told me that the family had been informed. They do know that it is Gabby Petito's remains, but they could not really comment much more than that. And right now, the focus is, of course, learning more about the final autopsy results when they will become available. It has been determined to be a homicide, but the manner of death will be important. The time of death, of course, important on this timeline of this crime.
Yeah, Laura, we've been waiting on these results. Did the timing surprise you? This actually came out a lot sooner than we all thought it was going to come out.
Yeah, you know, we've been in contact with the county coroner since we've been here. We were here over the weekend. They were talking with us once there were the remains that were found, but then they kind of shut down. We were told that the autopsy, a normal autopsy, could take anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. But if there was a complicated case, it could take longer. This seems like it could be a complicated case. The area where her remains were found is this beautiful area along a stream outside of a campsite with rocks and trees, and there are now markers from where the investigators had gone and marked with orange spray paint, and there are a lot of marks. So we don't know what that means. We don't know what type of evidence was obtained at the scene, but we know that it appears, at least on first sight, that there was a lot of it. So, you know, we have this initial information, and there's more to come. The stepfather, Jim Schmidt, is still here in Wyoming. He wanted to be here in case he was needed. We did not see him. He was not here to make any type of identification. We don't know exactly how that happened, but now his goal and the goal of the family is what he said, to bring Gabby home.
Yeah, Laura, let's walk everyone through what led us to this point. How did they eventually narrow it down to the Grand Teton National Forest to search for Gabby Petito. How'd they get there?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story, and it's a one that involves citizen journalists and detectives, really, because once the call went out from the FBI asking for people, if you were in this area, they believed that they were here in this area. We know it was part of their planned journey. This was a dream destination for Gabby Petito. She spoke to her family often about coming to this beautiful part of the country, and we know that they were going from Utah through here and eventually, hopefully, up to Oregon by Halloween was the plan. So that they knew that they were right around here. But it was this YouTube blogger, this travel blogger, who had taken video back on August 27th in that time frame. And when the word came out, go back and look at your videos if you were in this area. She jumped out of bed. She told Fox News this, and she went to her videos and she was editing, and she goes, oh my gosh, there's the white van that we've been being told to be on the lookout for. So she slowed it down, turned that into the FBI, turned it into the family, and that gave the FBI not only a very specific area of the park, and we're talking over 300,000 acres of land here. It gave them a very specific campground to start, like ground zero, and move out from there. And it was not long after that, Sunday afternoon, that we learned that human remains had been found nearby.
It's just amazing to think the role that citizen journalism has played in kind of cracking this case, and no doubt it will moving forward with all these pictures and videos, just out and about evidence that likely will be used in the future. Laura, last question for you. When do we think that final autopsy report will be released?
You know, we were just looking through the FBI statement. There was the tweet, and then there was a longer statement. They didn't mention how long that could be. We know that it could take some time. I think that what they wanted to do was get those first two initial pieces of information to the family first and then to the public, that it is 100% Gabby Petito and it was a homicide. Now, for the rest of it, we know that that could take a lot longer. We're just not sure. I asked the family attorney, what is he hearing? He said he just couldn't say, he didn't know. And as soon as we know, of course, we'll bring it to you.
All right, Fox's Laura Ingle reporting live for us in Wyoming tonight. Thank you so much for breaking it all down.
The PBS Documentaries Channel, a vast catalog of programs, now on demand.
Yes. How about that?
Start your free trial today.
Developing this morning, sheriff deputies in Utah are looking for any connection between a double homicide and the disappearance of a Florida woman.
This is a bizarre case. Last month, newlyweds Crystal Turner and Kylan Schulte were found shot to death at a campground near Moab. A family member says the couple complained about a guy who was making them uncomfortable in their campsite earlier. Schulte worked at a community co-op in Moab, which is near where Gabby Petito and her fiance, Brian Laundrie, got into a fight last month. Let's dive deeper into this developing story with reporter Morgan Wolf from station KSL in Salt Lake City. Thank you for joining us this morning, Morgan. I know that you have been investigating this, looking at all the twists and turns, and this is a story that goes from Utah to Wyoming to Florida to New York.
That's why I think it's so important for us to get the word out about Gabby, because we don't know exactly where she could be. But the latest information that I do have is actually that we have law enforcement that confirmed with us that they are searching in the Grand Tetons. This is a national park. It's huge, 300,000 acres in Wyoming. And so they told us that they are focusing on a specific area called Jenny's Lake. And that's because someone came forward saying that they saw Gabby's van. A woman named Shannon Baker said that she saw her August 25th. And she remembered the van because she thought, wow, this is like a really cute looking camper van. She was talking about it with her husband. And so that's the latest information that we have. And it just goes to show why it's so important to get all of these pieces of information out there, because you never know who could have seen her.
Yeah, and Morgan, the FBI has joined this investigation. This seems like a dream trip, right? Going across the country in a van that you converted, going camping, seeing all these national parks with your fiance. But we learned that there was trouble along the way, and they actually got into an argument that was recorded on police body camera.
Yes, August 12th is when this happened. And it happened inside Moab, and it was at a co-op where we actually found out one of the murdered women in Moab worked at. And so I did some digging, and I was thinking, was she there that day that this fight happened? And I found out, yes, she was. One of those women, it's Kylan Schulte. She was working at the co-op when the couple were spending time out there. And we got the confirmation that they were out there from Brian Laundrie himself in this body camera video. So we're piecing this together. These timelines of these two separate cases are overlapping, which has led to Grand County investigators in Utah starting to investigate them with a possible connection. And that was a really big piece of information that came out yesterday, because this, like you said, it's kind of a dream trip going across all these national parks. Moab is incredible. And things like this don't happen there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. Normally you just have hikers and people that are traveling across the country and enjoying themselves. So now we get to the police investigation where they have hit some speed bumps because they found the van, they found the fiance, but he's not cooperating and his family's not cooperating. And that's why Gabby's family went out yesterday saying, help us out, give us this break that we need. We know that you have answers here. Tell me about that. I mean, it's strange where you could see somebody just saying, I'm not cooperating at all.
And that is exactly what police are saying too. It's extremely uncommon, they tell me, that you have a loved one, a boyfriend, that does not want to give any information, not even the last time he saw his girlfriend, and to help out with this search. And so arguably, I think people really feel for the family right now, Gabby's family, as they're trying to find their daughter and they're not getting help from the person that could have last seen her. So police, again, are trying to work with Brian Laundrie and his attorney. He has an attorney that they can filter questions through. I've asked police if they've sent over questions. I haven't been answered that, but they've continuously just said that they have not heard from Brian. So we don't know if maybe Brian's attorney just isn't getting back to them. We don't know if he's saying that he's pleading the fifth, because you do have the constitutional right to not answer questions unless you are indicted by a grand jury. So it's just, it's a very, I think, mysterious and bizarre case here. And it's also wrapping in that idea of social media, because you have, this young couple that converted this van and was traveling through these parks. It's a really popular thing to do right now with that hashtag van life. And so I think that's why it's wrapping in so many young people right now too, because they can almost sympathize with this couple of having this dream of traveling in this cool converted van, but then also, very empathetic to the situation of something going wrong with Gabby disappearing. So it's catching the attention, I think, of all ages right now, because parents are concerned, obviously thinking of what if this was my daughter? And then you have people that are in their 20s that are thinking, what if this could have happened to a friend of mine?
Yeah. Morgan Wolf from station KSL in Salt Lake City. Thank you for your time this morning. I know you've been working around the clock to stay on top of this case. And like
got
you
my
said
coffee,
so it's very important to spread the word, because literally there could be clues anywhere. And we're hoping for the best for Gabby PETITO and her family and friends.
I've seen how cancer can affect
Gabby Petito's fiance is considered missing, and the search for him is ending its second day. The attorney for Brian Laundrie's family said Friday night that they have not heard from him since Tuesday. Crews are now focused on a 25,000-acre piece of land in Sarasota County called Carlton's Reserve. Fox 13's Evan Axelbank shows us the progress they've made and why this search is a challenge.
Police brought in heavy equipment suited both for land and water as they tried to narrow down the location of the one person who they know saw Gabby Petito after family last spoke to her August 25th in the Grand Tetons.
We're hopeful that he's, out here. Certainly we prepare for all different possibilities. But our goal is to locate him and bring him back to Northport.
The sun beat down as the attention of the nation zeroed in on Brian Laundrie, who police assumed for days was in the home owned by his parents. All day Friday, media and neighbors staked it out as calls grew for Laundrie to finally speak about Gabby. Instead, around 9, his attorney said police were invited to the home by parents who said they hadn't heard from him since Tuesday.
His family says that this is a place that he frequents. They also believe that this is where he came. And again, this is according to them.
Police searched the 200-acre Myakkahatchee Creek Park nearly 12 hours Saturday, and on Sunday went through the 25,000-acre Carlton Reserve. From Sky Fox, you can see Brian, maybe a needle in a haystack.
I mean, these are people that were living off the grid in different areas. I don't know how frequently, if he would come out here and do, day-long hikes or whatever. I mean, you could be out here for months if you wanted.
Evan Axelbank, Fox 13 News.
And this afternoon, the Laundrie family attorney shared more details of Brian's parents' movements with us, saying they discovered a note on Brian's car in the preserve when they initially went to look for him on Wednesday. Then they left the car so he could drive back. When Brian did not come home Thursday morning, the parents say they went to retrieve his car. Many more questions than answers tonight, and we will have continuing coverage of the Gabby Petito investigation in our next half hour. More details from investigators out west and the search for Brian ahead at 10:30. We've also posted all the latest updates on the case on our website, fox13news.com, and the FBI is still seeking any information that could help them find Brian or determine exactly what happened to Gabby. Their tip line is 1-800-CALL-FBI.
Does your vitamin C last 24 hours? Only Nature's Bounty does. Immune 24-Hour Plus has longer-lasting vitamin C, plus herbal and other immune superstars. Only from Nature's Bounty.
Well, this case has garnered national attention. So many people touched by the story, especially in Gabby's hometown of Blue Point, Long Island. That's where Eyewitness News reporter Stacey Sager is live with the unique way strangers are showing their support. Stacey?
Well, Sade, sometimes words fail. And so there's this. It's a sea of these teal ribbons. They're all over Blue Point right now. And actually, they span for about half a mile all the way up to the home of Gabby Petito's family. And it's an endeavor that spans across several communities.
There are hundreds of them up already here in Blue Point, the hometown of Gabby Petito, where hearts were broken this past week and hope was lost. What we know is the tragedy is bringing people together, people who don't even know each other. But these ribbons brought them here today.
I said I have to give back. If people give back to me.
For Jeannie Beckvar, Gabby's story is even more closely tied in with her own.
I can feel what the parents feel because I lost a daughter 5 years ago. So I know what they feel like.
For others, the feeling is harder to pinpoint. Perhaps that Gabby had documented her trip with Brian Laundrie so extensively on social media.
Brian's stretching, doing some morning yoga.
People were invested as though they knew her.
She just seemed like a very innocent, sweet girl. And we all felt like she was our daughter.
Absolutely.
I would get up in the morning and say, like, I got to find out where Gabby is.
And so, in a small town where some are at a loss for words, these teal-colored ribbons now fill an emptiness.
Everyone here is so close to their neighbors. They know everybody. Everyone works together. So anything that hits close to home, everyone's going to unite. And it's unbelievable the support the family has.
Basically making a statement that this tragedy has tied so many of them together.
Because she was a very young girl. We don't know the story. We just feel it. We feel it in our heart.
And they feel it with this endeavor. Back here live now, these teal ribbons definitely filling a void, at least for the time being. This began with Gabby's mother choosing the color of the ribbons. We are told there will be another tribute to Gabby this Friday night, shining a light for Gabby and her family. They'll have candles out here at the preserve here in Blue Point at 7 o'clock, and people will be making donations once again to the Petito family.